The rain came down in sheets that night, turning the empty parking lot into a mirror of black asphalt and flickering streetlights. Sarah sat behind the wheel of her car, hands trembling against the steering wheel, mascara streaking down her cheeks in dark rivers. She'd pulled over 20 minutes ago, maybe 30. Time had stopped meaning anything. The divorce papers sat crumpled on the passenger seat. 7 years of marriage gone, the apartment she could no longer afford, the job she just lost that morning. And now, at 11 p.m. on a Tuesday, she was parked outside a closed grocery store with nowhere to go and $43 in her bank account. Sarah pressed her forehead against the steering wheel and sobbed, deep, gasping cries that seemed to tear something loose inside her chest. That's when she heard it. A low whine, soft but insistent. She lifted her head, blinking through tears, and froze. A German shepherd stood outside her driver's side window, rain soaking its dark fur, but it wasn't barking or scratching at the glass. It was just watching her. Its amber eyes held something Sarah couldn't quite name, intelligence, concern, almost like it understood. "Go away," she whispered, her voice raw. The dog didn't move. Sarah turned away, fresh tears blurring her vision, but the whining continued, more urgent now. When she looked back, the German shepherd had pressed its nose against the window, leaving a small fog circle on the glass. Against every logical instinct, Sarah cracked the window an inch. The dog's ears perked forward. It didn't try to force its way in. It just stared at her with those impossibly knowing eyes, then did something that made Sarah's breath catch. It placed its paw against the window and tilted its head as if asking, "Are you okay?" And somehow, that simple gesture from a stray dog broke something open inside her that even her ex-husband's cruelty couldn't touch. But this dog wasn't a stray, and what it was about to do would change Sarah's life forever. Sarah's hand moved to the door handle before her mind could stop her. She pushed it open just a crack, and the German shepherd immediately backed up, giving her space. Respectful, patient. You're not going to attack me, are you?" she asked, feeling ridiculous for talking to a dog. The shepherd sat. Rain cascaded down its face, but it didn't move, waiting. Sarah opened the door fully and stepped out into the downpour. The cold rain hit her like a slap, but she barely felt it. The dog stood and moved closer, not threateningly, but protectively. It positioned itself between Sarah and the dark corners of the parking lot, as if standing guard. "Where's your owner?" Sarah asked, looking around the empty lot. No other cars, no one calling for a lost pet, just the hiss of rain and the distant rumble of thunder. The dog had no collar, no tags, but its coat, despite being soaked, looked healthy, well-fed. This wasn't an abandoned animal that had been living on the streets. Sarah knelt down, and the German shepherd approached slowly. It pressed its head against her knee, and Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in months. Not alone. She wrapped her arms around the dog's neck and cried into its fur. And the shepherd just stood there, solid and warm, letting her break apart. "I don't know what to do," Sarah whispered. "I have nowhere to go, nothing left." The dog pulled back and looked directly into her eyes. Then it did something extraordinary. It walked toward her car, stopped, looked back at her, and barked once. Sharp, clear, "Follow me." "What are you?" The dog barked again, more insistent. Sarah's heart pounded. This was crazy, but something in those intelligent eyes made her trust, made her believe that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't random. She got back in her car, and the German shepherd trotted ahead, staying in her headlight beams. It led her out of the parking lot, down 3 blocks, and then stopped in front of a building Sarah had driven past 100 times but never really noticed. A veterinary clinic. But not just any clinic. Through the rain-streaked windows, Sarah could see lights on inside. Movement. The dog barked at the front door, persistent and loud. A woman in scrubs appeared, unlocking the door. She was maybe 50, with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair pulled into a ponytail. "Atlas," the woman exclaimed. "What are you doing out in this weather? I thought you were in the—" She stopped, noticing Sarah standing in the rain, clearly distressed. "Oh my God, are you all right?" Atlas, the dog, had a name. But what Sarah didn't know was that Atlas wasn't just any therapy dog, and the reason he'd found her wasn't coincidence at all. Dr. Michelle Chen ushered Sarah inside, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders while Atlas shook water all over the clinic floor, completely unbothered. "I'm so sorry," Sarah stammered. "Your dog just— He found me in a parking lot and I don't know why I followed him, but—" "Sit," Dr. Chen said gently, guiding Sarah to a chair in the waiting area. "Atlas isn't technically my dog. He's trained for crisis intervention, PTSD support, suicide prevention, emergency response. He works with our clinic's mental health outreach program." Sarah's eyes widened. "You mean he's trained to find people who are in crisis?" "Yes." Dr. Chen knelt beside Atlas, scratching behind his ears. "But here's what I can't explain. Atlas was sleeping in my office 20 minutes ago. All the doors were locked. I have no idea how he got out or how he knew to find you." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. "That's impossible." "I've worked with Atlas for 3 years," Dr. Chen said quietly, "and I've learned not to question what's impossible when it comes to him. He's found 7 people in the last 2 years. People who were about to do something they couldn't take back. People who needed help but couldn't ask for it." Sarah's throat tightened. She thought about the bottle of sleeping pills in her glove compartment, the one she'd picked up from the pharmacy that afternoon, the one she'd been staring at before the tears came. "I didn't tell anyone," Sarah whispered. "I didn't even tell myself I was thinking about it." Dr. Chen's expression softened. "Atlas knew anyway." For a long moment, they sat in silence. Atlas moved to Sarah's side and rested his head on her lap, those amber eyes looking up at her with something that felt sacred, like he could see every broken piece of her and loved her anyway. "I lost everything today," Sarah finally said. "My marriage ended, my job, my home. I have no family nearby. I didn't see a way forward." "I understand," Dr. Chen said. "I've been there. 10 years ago, after my daughter died, I was exactly where you are now, and someone found me, someone who saw past the smile I wore to the pain underneath." She paused. "That's why I started this program. That's why I trained Atlas." Sarah looked down at the dog, who was now lying across her feet like an anchor. "Why is he doing this? Staying with me?" "Because his job isn't done," Dr. Chen said simply. "Atlas doesn't just find people. He stays with them until he knows they're safe, until he knows they've found a reason to hold on." But there was something else Dr. Chen hadn't told Sarah yet, something about Atlas that would reveal the true miracle of this night. Dr. Chen disappeared into her office and returned with a worn photograph. She handed it to Sarah. The image showed a young soldier in combat fatigues, kneeling beside a German Shepherd puppy. The soldier was smiling, the kind of smile that lit up their whole face. "That's my daughter, Lieutenant Maya Chen," Dr. Chen said, her voice thick with emotion. "And that's Atlas when he was 8 weeks old. She trained him from the day he was born. He was going to be her service dog after she came home from deployment." Sarah's heart clenched. She didn't come home. "No, she died saving 3 members of her unit, threw herself on a grenade." Dr. Chen's eyes shimmered. "Atlas was still just a puppy when we got the news, but from that day forward he changed. It was like he understood, like he took on Maya's mission." "What mission?" "She always wanted to help people through their darkest moments. She survived her own suicide attempt at 19, and after that, she dedicated her life to making sure others found reasons to live." Dr. Chen touched the photo gently. "Atlas does that now, for her." Sarah stared at the German Shepherd, who was watching her with those impossibly wise eyes. "You said he was in your office, all the doors locked." Dr. Chen nodded slowly. I know it sounds crazy, but this is the third time Atlas has escaped from a locked building to find someone. I've checked the security footage from previous incidents. Sarah, he walks through doors, or they open for him. I don't know which, and I've stopped trying to explain it. The hair on Sarah's arm stood up. That's impossible. So is a dog knowing exactly where to find a stranger having a breakdown in a random parking lot across town. Dr. Chen smiled softly. I believe my daughter's love for helping people was so strong that somehow, someway, it lives on through Atlas. Whether you call it a miracle, a mystery, or just extraordinary training, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're here, you're safe, and tomorrow is still possible. Atlas stood and moved closer to Sarah, pressing his body against her legs. And in that moment, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in years. Seen, valued, worth saving. But the night still had one more revelation in store. Dr. Chen made tea while Sarah sat with Atlas, her fingers buried in his thick fur. The clinic was warm and quiet, insulated from the storm outside. What happens now? Sarah finally asked. Well, Dr. Chen said, setting down 2 mugs of chamomile tea, Atlas will stay with you tonight. I have a guest room upstairs where we house overnight cases. Tomorrow we talk about next steps. I happen to need a clinic manager. My last one just retired. It includes housing in the apartment attached to the building. Doesn't pay much at first, but it's steady. Sarah's eyes widened. You don't even know me. I know Atlas found you, that's enough. Dr. Chen smiled. And I know what it's like to need a lifeline. Someone gave me one 10 years ago. I'm just passing it forward. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks again, but these felt different, lighter. I was going to take those pills, Sarah admitted, her voice barely a whisper. The ones in my car, I had them all planned out. I know, Dr. Chen said gently, but you didn't, and Atlas made sure you wouldn't. Sarah looked down at the German shepherd who had fallen asleep across her feet, his body warm and solid. How did he know? How did he find me exactly when I needed him most? Dr. Chen leaned back in her chair. Some things don't need explanations. Some things are just grace. Maya used to say that angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they have paws and know exactly when to show up. Outside, the rain began to soften. Through the clinic window, Sarah could see the first hints of dawn breaking through the clouds, thin ribbons of gold against gray. A new day. A new chance. I don't know how to thank you, Sarah said, either of you. Don't thank us yet, Dr. Chen said with a knowing smile. Wait until you see how much paperwork comes with running a vet clinic. For the first time in months, Sarah laughed. It was small and shaky, but it was real. Atlas lifted his head at the sound, his tail thumping once against the floor, as if to say, that's better. Sarah stood in the clinic's doorway, watching as Atlas greeted patients with his usual gentle dignity. She'd been running the clinic for half a year now, and the apartment upstairs had become more of a home than anywhere she'd lived in years. Her ex-husband's voice was a distant memory. The financial stress had eased. She'd made friends, found purpose. But more than that, she'd found proof that even in the darkest moments, even when you're certain you're completely alone, sometimes grace shows up on 4 legs with amber eyes and refuses to let you give up. Atlas had been called out twice more in the past 6 months. Both times, he'd mysteriously escaped to find people in crisis. Both times, he'd brought them back to safety. Dr. Chen had stopped trying to explain it. Sarah had stopped questioning it. Some mysteries were better honored than solved. That morning, a teenager had come in with his family's new puppy. As Sarah processed the paperwork, she noticed the boy's eyes, hollow, empty. The same look she'd had that rainy night. Without being called, Atlas walked over and sat beside the teenager, placed his paw on the boy's knee, looked up with those knowing eyes. The teenager's mother started to apologize, but Sarah held up her hand. Let him stay, she said softly. Because she understood now. This was how love worked, how grace worked, how hope survived. One lost soul finding another. One moment of connection changing everything. The night Sarah was ready to give up, a German shepherd appeared and showed her the truth. You're never as alone as you think. Help is always closer than you know. And sometimes, miracles have fur and know exactly when to show up. If you're struggling tonight, please reach out. Call the Suicide Prevention Hotline 988. Tell someone. Let your atlas find you, because your story isn't over, it's just beginning. Dedicated to everyone who has ever felt alone in the dark. You matter. Your story matters. Hold on.